Good day. If one asks a rhetorical question, is China the most powerful country in the world today? That question will be one that probably will elicit a lot of snigger and responses that how can that be a question to even ask? Because it's very obvious that America still remains the most dominant and powerful economy in the world. It has the largest and most powerful and well-resourced military in the world. It has extensive reach all across the world. And by any means and all means, America is very dominant in all the affairs of the world, finance, innovation, skill. So America definitely will seem to be the most powerful country in the world. By miles, many people will even state. But let me state this now. In 2019, President Trump, in his first tenure as for the 45th president of America, levied tariffs on China. China retaliated, and when China retaliated, they levied tariffs also on mainly American farm products. But President Trump escalated. He targeted one major Chinese company called Huawei. He blocked their access to American technology, and he also blocked access to sale of American semiconductor products to quite a lot of companies in China. So since then, there's been these problems, this escalation of tit of tat actions against each other between China and America. It should be understood that it's only China that has been able to do that to America in recent times. But the China that the 47th president of America, President Donald Trump, has come to meet 4 years after leaving office, it's a different China altogether. Because this time around, he did Liberation Day and levied reciprocal tariffs on over all the countries of the world, over 120 countries. Only one country dared to push back, and that was China. And when China pushed back, Trump put tariffs at 145% on their products, while the Chinese put their own tariffs of 125% against American products. It didn't take long anyway for there to be some form of peace settlements. Negotiations were held in Geneva and tariffs were brought down. But following that first tussle, the Chinese did one power move that changed the dynamics and showed where really, in this time and age, who holds the cards and who really is the most powerful country in the world now, if not militarily, at least economically. Good day and welcome to my channel, Ebima Mungo's Perspective on Global Affairs. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe. If you have any comments regarding the views I express in this video, you can leave them in the comment section. Like, share, and if anything resonates, just share and like. Help us grow the channel. President Donald Trump launched his Liberation Day attack on China, and it showed us that trade in this world has really changed. Before I continue, let me just tell us how trade has really been important to the historical reality we see today. It was through trade, it was in facilitating trade that America was discovered, and it was also by facilitating trade that countries in the West Indies were discovered by Christopher Columbus. Trade facilitation is what led Marco Polo to China to discover that there was a very vibrant and viable kingdom out there, the Middle Kingdom, that nobody even knew about. And let's not also forget that innovation, religion, and ideas have been spread by trade for several years. It was trade that took the British to the Chinese, and we all know, yes, and we all know how that turned out the early time. All they wanted to do was trade in opium, but the Chinese didn't want it, and it led to the British dominating that neighborhood for over 100 years, and something the Chinese consider to be 100 years of humiliation. So trade is really important in this world. Trade really is one of the key activities of humanity. And Following World War II, America's hegemony was clear, and it was certified not only by the fact that their military was the biggest in the world. It was also certified by the fact that 75% of global trade and manufacturing was done by the Americans. That was what gave America power in 1945. For 75 years, the American economy has dominated the world. Since World War II, which is over 80 years now, America has been the preeminent economy of the world. But over time, that is now changing. So how can we say that can you even consider China to be a player now? Well, it so turns out that China has become a major manufacturing hub. They have moved into spaces that so many of the Western world has receded in, and they are now innovative in a way that is creating challenges. Chinese cars, Chinese solar panels, Chinese electric vehicles, Chinese renewable energy technology, Chinese high-speed train technologies are just way ahead of every other person's. But over these past 20 years, China has become the preeminent trading partner of over 120 countries. Let's not forget that trade defined the struggle among our European countries in the 19th century, 17th and 19th century, when companies like the East Indian Company and companies like the United African Company were all moving out to go and look for new trading routes, and they were having conflicts among each other. It just became important that in 1885, for the sake of not having to fight with each other, they agreed to have captive markets in Africa, and that was what led to the division of Africa and the partitioning of Africa. So trade and markets have been very important. In the past 20 years, there's one thing that has really happened. While the Americans have been concerned about the kind of quality of manufacturing they did, they moved up and up the value chain and started manufacturing preeminently high quality products like aviation, Boeing, space products, space services, and even automobiles. The Chinese moved into the spaces that were left by America and most of the Western world, consumer goods, commodities, simple products, household products. But it was just not the fact that they moved that really was the issue. It was the fact that they started to move into markets where they had no incumbents, because even when locals were trying to do these businesses, they were found that it was better to get all their resources from China. So now, over the course of time, China has come to dominate so much of the value chain, the whole value chain, from downstream, from getting the raw materials, all the way to processing the raw materials, to bringing out final products, intermediate products. So China now trades and creates value for a large part of the world. China's market is the whole world. But for America, America has continued to dominate the Western world and the American market, because the American market is by miles the biggest market out there because of the size of the American consumer market. But here's the thing. Let's take a product like the cell phone. Nobody has seen a Huawei phone in America, but Huawei was almost at one time the largest selling phone company in the world, because there's a larger market out there than the American market. This is the strategy of the Chinese. When I used to teach marketing, we call this marketing strategy flanking. The Chinese occupy market spaces that are not considered viable for the Americans and the Westerners. So when they come to Africa and they come to the Latin America and they come to ASEAN and they come and sell all their products, they make these markets captive markets, and they don't have incumbents there that trouble them. So, but when you look at now, recently the Chinese started to go into automobile. There they had incumbents. They are muscling their way into the Middle East. If you live in Saudi Arabia or Dubai or any of these other countries in the Middle East, you will see the struggle between the Chinese cars and Toyota. Toyota is the king of the Middle East. But every day you get to see that MG Haval, Chang'an, cars that are part of the Chinese wave of cars are taking over. You see them more in the cities of Jeddah, in cities of Dubai, in Abu Dhabi. You start to see them. But if there's any place where the Chinese have muscled their way into owning the market space, then it will be in Brazil, it will be in Thailand, it will be in Mexico, it will be places where traditionally the Americans and Western brands like Mercedes and Volkswagen had always controlled. But automobile is a different thing. It is a recent phenomenon that the Chinese started to get into the automotive space. But it is not just the automotive space. Long before the automotive space, products down, consumer products from air conditioners to any kind of consumer product you think of. It was just left to the Koreans, the Chinese, and sometimes the Japanese to do battle. Most often, the Chinese win. So Chinese have sewn up the markets in 120 countries, and they're the largest trading partners of most of these countries. So they have occupied space in the markets. That is for a fact. But if the Chinese have given themselves power, it is more to do with the fact that they've come to control the supply chain of almost every single product out there. And it was this that gave them leverage when they had this trade war with Trump. While negotiations started out in Geneva, and there was an intermediate ceasefire, as you will call it, it soon emerged that the Chinese held on to one particular part of their own reciprocal action against America, and that was that they banned rare earth metal, the export of rare earth metal and magnets. In a short time, well under a month or two, the impact of that move it was such a power move that it was so disruptive to the American automobile, to the European automobile industry. The automobile industry is one of the largest exports still existing within America and within the Western world. And the fact that the Chinese shut down a very critical material into this industry was very, very um, alarming for the Americans and the Europeans, to the extent that President Donald Trump had to dispatch this time not only his Treasury Secretary but also his Commerce Secretary to go talk with the Chinese in London. And there they came up with a framework. The framework is that, okay, we'll start exporting some of these rare earth metals and magnets to America, but we'll do them under license that lasts only 6 months. The Chinese are now calling the shots. When they first tried to hit at America, they were hitting at farm products. In this new iteration of the Trump presidency, the Chinese are hitting with magnets. This is even before there are so many rare earth metals and so many other intermediate metals products that they have already banned long ago and put export control on. Products that affected the semiconductor industry, germanium, germanium, all these products that are so critical to the semiconductor industry, they had already put export controls, because if you don't allow them to have ASML plants, EUV plants, then they will make sure that the whole world is uncomfortable in producing the semiconductor wafers, because they control part of the value chain for the products that they control a part of the value chain that is needed in creating silicon chips and creating those chips that you're denying them. So the Chinese are now playing a hand that was not part of the reality that Trump had in 2019. When Trump left in 2019 and when he attacked Huawei so violently and viciously, he left a company that was so knocked out, almost knocked out. They lost their preeminent position in the consumer goods, phones. They left that. They sold one part of their phone business to Honor. But when he comes back in 2025, the company is seen now is producing AI chips, is producing software for um, for autonomous mobile company cars in China. It is a leader in so many realms. The company is way, way, way more resilient, more diverse. It has its own operating system. It now has its own high-end chips. It's back into the premium market for phones. The company that Trump tried to kill in 2019 is a phoenix, became a phoenix that rose up and is now a different company. So when you look at China's stranglehold on the supply chains of almost every critical metal out there to aid manufacture and to aid processing of goods, if you look at the fact that the Chinese now have sewn up all the markets globally, and even if Americans start to produce things and manufacture things, it almost is certain that they will only be selling it within America and within the Western Hemisphere. Every other territory outside that space has been occupied by the Chinese. And those are now Chinese markets. Just as how the British controlled all the Anglophone markets and nudged out the French from those markets so that the French also controlled the Francophone markets, and the Germans, they were not part of the colonial enterprise. They were poor at it and they did not keep theirs for a long time. But they control their own markets in their own spaces too. So markets are captive. And for now, the Chinese have captured all the market in the world. That was once the domain of the Japanese. The Japanese grew their economy by capturing markets and contesting markets with General Motors, with Ford, but it's no more. Now Ford, General Motors, Mercedes-Benz, Volkswagen, they are all suffering the onslaught of Chinese cars and products into markets that they used to be incumbents in. So when you look at these things and you see that if you need to produce products like planes, you need the Chinese and their rare earth metals and magnets. You want to produce fighter jets, you need the Chinese. You want to produce anything. But that is not even the main thing. It's the overwhelming manufacturing capacity that the Chinese possess now. They are by far, by miles, the most productive country with an ability to manufacture that even almost matches or surpasses that of the 1945 America. At, so you wonder now that where does the confidence of the Chinese come from? This time around, they had a trade war with Trump. And even though Trump is full of praise of his tariff wars and how so many countries are coming to lick his ass, he didn't have that with the Chinese. Rather, it was President Donald Trump who sent people to go and talk to the Chinese and who made a call to President Xi Jinping that we need to sort this matter out. If he had not done that, probably by now, some automobile companies in America would have closed. Production of artilleries that use antimony, very important critical metal, they would have not been able to do it. There are so many things America will not be able to do if they don't have access to Chinese supplies. And this is where you wonder, who really is the powerful person in this equation? Is it China or is it America? This is where I come to the end of my video for today. If you have any comments about the views expressed here, put them in the comment section. If you're new to my channel, please like, subscribe, and share. Thank you for being with me to this time. See you in my next video.